I'd love to introduce this Senate to a couple that I know. Husband, wife, both work for the federal government. Young couple, expecting their first child. This week they will miss a paycheck, both of them. You tell me how many people in their early days of marriage, both spouses could miss a paycheck while they're preparing for their first child. But that's the reality that's being faced by that couple, and I'm sure a lot of other folks that stepped up to serve their nation, serving in a federal agency, but because of a government shutdown, they're not going to get paid. I'd love to introduce this body to a single mom that just a couple of weeks ago got the invitation to go to the FAA Academy and to become an air traffic controller. Very difficult to get into that school, but is in the process, has been accepted, is in the process, has quit her job, has canceled her lease, and as a single mom is taking the risk to be able to step out in a new great career. But right in the process of stepping out to do that new great career, there's a government shutdown, and now she has no idea what's about to happen. She's quit her job already. She's canceled her lease already. She was preparing to move to get to the academy. Now what does she do? For all the folks out there that say this government shutdown is no big deal, or as my Democratic colleagues in the House have said, some families are going to have to suffer to give us leverage. Here are the families that are actually suffering to give my Democratic colleagues leverage so they can discuss health care. But let me not just talk about health care they want to discuss. Their focus seems to be on a COVID-era subsidy that they created for the Affordable Care Act to try to make it more affordable, because here's the problem in my state. In my state in Oklahoma, the Affordable Care Act, the cost for it has increased 200% in 6 years, while commercial insurance has increased 29% in those same 6 years. So the quote-unquote Affordable Care Act is only affordable if there's just one subsidy on top of another, on top of another, on top of another, because the structure of the Affordable Care Act is not affordable. It's only affordable if there's more and more and more and more tax dollars sent to insurance companies to try to cover more and more and more on it. And my Democratic colleagues say we're going to keep the government closed until we even get more money on that, and we don't want to discuss anything. Well, here's the problem. We've got 200% increase for one area, 29% increase in the other, and they say just keep dumping more money into it. We absolutely know, and my Democratic colleagues have told me privately, we know there's a lot of fraud, that there's money being sent to insurance companies, that they're then covering people that actually don't even know they have coverage just because it's cheap for the insurance companies. Everybody knows that exists in it, but they don't want to discuss that. They just want to add more money into it. We have people making $250,000 a year that are getting subsidies with these additional subsidies they created several years ago. And we've said, what in the world that people making $250,000 a year are getting these subsidies? We also know the way that my Democratic colleagues created these subsidies, they went around the Hyde Amendment, which has been very clear. Federal tax dollars do not go to pay for abortions, but they created this very creative system of tax credits so they could send money to insurance companies to pay for elective abortions. They're asking every Republican now to jump on board and to be able to vote for that. Listen, there are big issues with this. My Democratic colleagues say, well, just fund more health care. Just take care of it. We know there's fraud. We know there's people making $500,000. We know there's abortion funding going. We know all these aspects. So, no, we're not just going to dump more money into it. We've said something pretty straightforward. Let's keep the government open at its current status quo. And let's keep debating all these issues. But why should next week SNAP recipients no longer get SNAP benefits? Because there's a fight over all these healthcare issues on this that we have very strong actual policy issues with. Why are they cutting off SNAP benefits? Why are they telling this young couple with an infant child on the way, no, neither of you are going to get paid? Why is that happening? So here's what we've done. I proposed a bill that I put out last session. It was very straightforward. This bill just says we will never have another government shutdown. Never. Every time we get to another moment like this, automatic funding kicks in, but here's the kicker. Members of Congress are in session 7 days a week, and we can't do anything but appropriations. We've got to do appropriations, and we've got to be here 7 days a week, House and Senate, until we actually get this solved. And that seems like a pretty reasonable thing. My Democratic colleagues have been bemoaning the House is not in session. If you would have voted for my bill last session, we would all be here right now negotiating this out. I had 57 votes on that last session, 57. We were 3 votes short of never, ever having a government shutdown again, never. So I'm going to bring it again and to say, let's end the potential of government shutdowns ever. And let's actually stay here and debate the issues and to be able to work things out like grown-ups. In the meantime, until we can get that done and until we can get my Democratic colleagues to agree, my colleague Ron Johnson has brought forward a very simple proposal. Let's pay the people that are working. Like this young couple that I mentioned, they're still working, both of them. Let's pay them while they're working, while we continue to be able to negotiate this out. If you won't at least open the government, as we have the last 13 times when we got to this moment, and just have a continuing resolution, at least pay the people that are working. This is a baby step and an offer to our Democratic colleagues to say, let's at least do the minimum on this to not punish those folks. There are folks today that are on the road working for the federal government that are in critical positions that they're not being paid, and they're actually putting their expenses on their credit card, not knowing if they're going to get a chance to pay that off. It's not right. So let's take the steps. My recommendation is, long-term, let's never have a shutdown ever again. Let's fix the process. We were 3 votes short last session. Let's actually fix that permanently. Let's get us back open again. But at a minimum, let's at least, while we're arguing, pay federal workers that are still at the task. That should be the easiest threshold to be able to step over. Me and my colleagues are on the floor today because we want to get a chance to be able to offer this to our Democratic colleagues and say, we're going to reach an olive branch out to you. Let's get started on some things. So I yield the floor to my colleagues.